Joining me now is John Edelman, who is the president of Haldimand Motors located in Cayuga, Ontario, which is Canada's largest used car dealership. John, welcome.
Thank you.
John, you have earned a tremendous respect amongst your peers in the auto industry, and I believe you're well qualified to be able to speak to this issue regarding the auto crisis that we're facing today. But I'm interested as to your perspective, because we've heard so much, and it's so easy to point fingers in so many different directions. But what is your biblical perspective as to what you believe, your opinion, that has brought us or led us to this current crisis we're facing now in the auto industry today?
Well, it seems to be that back in the mid-90s, the auto industry wanted to find some sort of a way to get people into more car than what they could actually afford. And there became a leasing portfolio and different portfolios that came out, and they each time had to edge it back that the consumer was put into a longer and longer term and put out of the marketplace longer and longer. Now they've come to the point where the leasing is not available anymore, and they've put them in a lot of the sectors, and they've put them into 7-year terms into cars, and they've taken the people out of the marketplace. And as they take the people out of the marketplace longer and longer, there becomes more availability of cars and less people to buy them.
Now, you believe that, and as we saw in the segment earlier, that Jesus is the CEO of your company. And I'm going to ask you a question that, looking at it from that perspective, assuming you would be in the larger field in the auto industry, being one of the major leaders, is there something that you would, on a macro level, change biblically to help bring some correction down to where the consumer is within the auto industry?
I think that what's ended up happening is people have become chained to their car, if we want to say that. The Bible would say the borrower is servant to the lender. And in that case, I would think that the people that are buying cars need to be taught and educated to get into a car where they're not borrowing more than what they can really afford, and keeping the term of that borrowing to a shorter term. As they keep it to a shorter term, they will be in a financial stable position throughout the term of that loan, that they can always sell the car without being in default on the amount of money owing on the car. It will leave the customer not chained to that car throughout its term.
So the key is financing.
It all seems to be, that's what's happening to our partners to the south of us. It seems to be a financing issue. It has been since the mid-90s. It just has been deferred from system to system to system until it finally broke loose now.
Now, Jesus said in Luke chapter 14, dealing with the cost of discipleship, that count the cost before you build. And I'm assuming he took that from Proverbs 24 and 27, where it says that we're to plan, prepare our fields. In other words, look at what your income is before you build a house. John, you have the largest used car dealership in Canada, and many people come and you sell a great number of cars. But as a consumer, looking at those principles that Christ has given us, how do I begin to think regarding buying a car, dealing with what's happening in the world today in the auto field?
Well, we've as a company have looked at that scenario and said, what can we do for the consumer to protect them? And so what we've done is tried to encourage our consumer to stick to a 3-year finance term. If they keep to a 3-year finance term versus 5 or 7, which is the new car industry now, they will be left in a position where they're safe in that vehicle throughout its term. Safe being the value will be in there according to the debt owing. That's so critical because the consumer then does not get chained to that vehicle.
So what's being offered today is the 7-year finance plan. You're suggesting to help turn things around, we need to begin to think 3-year terms.
Yeah, so if you look at the payment of a 3-year term, can you afford that payment? What you'll see in the advertisements will be a 7-year finance payment, and look at how low the payment is. In a year from now, if life changes for you, and you need to dispose of that vehicle or downscale your living expenses, you're going to be in an offside position financially, and you have no choice. You have no choices. And that's not preparing, as the scriptures had said. That is not preparing and looking at your costs ahead of time.
And at Haldimand Motors, you are actually, when people walk into your dealership, you are encouraging people to think this way, letting them make that choice for themselves, because you believe biblically it's going to help the bigger picture.
Yeah, obviously people have to make their own choice. We would love to encourage them to go to shorter terms if we can, and definitely not to the 7-year terms. That's the last thing you'd want to do right now.
Well, John, thank you so much for taking the time to being here with us today. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Stay tuned for more 100 Huntley Street to come.